On to the labour situation here in South Africa. Adcorp's labour economist Loane Sharp has said that South Africa's economy has an insatiable demand for people in high-skilled positions. This is why executive and professional remuneration has risen just so quickly. However, the last employment index showed a shedding of at least 12,000 jobs in the high-skilled market in March. Steve Bluen from Gibbs, a professor of human resources at Gibbs, joins us now to give his thoughts on skills development at the upper end of the equation in South Africa. Thanks for joining us today, Steve. So is the situation getting worse or better? Because the latest data from Adcorp showed that jobs were in fact, for the first time, and it's a very rare occasion, you have jobs being shed at the upper end. In March there were job losses. But overall, would you say from your perspective right now that the skills dearth in South Africa is getting worse or better?
I think, the current drop in skills is a factor, but I think in the main, if you take a longer term perspective, I think that the situation is getting worse rather than better. That there are not enough skills to satisfy the demands in the country at the moment at the top levels of the economy.
What are companies doing? I mean, what are you seeing companies doing? Are they importing skills? Are they trying to train upskill people within the workforce? Can they do that quickly enough?
Well, I think that, at the start of it, I think what the good companies are doing is that they're developing strategic talent plans that are, in much the same way as you develop a strategy around any of the other key resources in the organization. The talent strategies are being developed to meet the overall company strategies. And with that, you're looking at a big focus on planning and future planning, 5 years down the track. Seeing what resources you have available in your organizations, where you have the necessary talent, you develop it. Where you don't is to go outside of the company and attract talent and to build your pipeline, your talent pipeline.
But, attracting talent is one thing. Is there the talent out there in a country like South Africa where, for example, if you're looking at highly skilled jobs like engineers, we know that there's a deficit specifically in that space. So can companies go looking for the talent in the jobs market as it stands right now?
I think they can. I think it's a matter of being creative. The workforce in 20 years' time has been born already. So it's a matter of taking a longer term perspective and saying, what have we got available in our organization? What we don't have in our organization, what is available out there? And where there are deficits is for companies to get into partnerships with education institutions and government and to develop training programs, career qualifications, etc., so that they can meet the gaps down the road.
That's what textbooks say, of course, and that makes a lot of sense. Are big companies actually doing that? Are they putting the big cash piles that we're said to be sitting on a lot of balance sheets? Are they prioritizing that money towards those longer-term human resource needs?
Yeah, I think what is actually happening is that more and more chief executives are starting to understand that the absence of talent represents a means of leaving millions of rands on the table. So it's becoming a much greater strategic priority of organizations. And as such, I think that the forward-looking companies are actually developing that approach where they're saying, let's deal with it. Of course, you're still getting the much shorter-term approach of actually poaching. And if the pond is only so big, all you're doing is robbing Peter to pay Paul, and that goes around and around, and it satisfies no one. The idea is to get a bigger pond and make more people available over time.
Which skills are most in need right now? I mean, when we're talking about poaching, who's benefiting the most in certain professions or careers?
I think globally the biggest challenge is the engineering profession. They say there's no such thing as a retired engineer. I know of one case in Western Australia where there's a huge demand, and they're soaking up a lot of the engineers from around the world. One particular organization had a particular job they couldn't fill for about 18 months. They employed someone, an engineer of 70 years old. So the point I'm making here is that the engineering area is, I think, the biggest crisis that we are facing. Not only are we not getting enough engineers coming through the university system, but the engineering qualification is such a good qualification that many of the engineers are not seeking to become professional engineers, and they're taking up managerial positions, doing MBAs and the like, and going into general management. So those engineers that are coming through are being taken up in going into other professions as well.
looking at the needs of South Africa's companies right now, and the fact that you say they should partner with education institutions in South Africa, what about continuing on those programs that they start? I mean, are they the right teachers? Are they the right people in these in the education system to be able to continue to create the jobs and the skills that are needed rather in the institutions?
I think that there's again a great partnership that needs to happen between the education institutions and big business, because it's a global phenomenon that there are many people coming out of, especially in emerging markets, many people coming out with qualifications, but the qualifications are not suited to the multinationals. And I think that's a serious problem that needs to be addressed.
Mm-hmm. How, assessing companies, of course, you would assess it on the hardcore numbers that we see coming through on a daily basis during results season, but I suppose this is almost a soft assessment, looking at their human resource development plans. Is it becoming more and more critical to understand the long-term strategy? Do investors, do you see that people looking at companies start looking at that when assessing a company?
I think what's emerging is that more and more companies are putting metrics around the talent data in much the same ways they put around their sales or their profitability data. And that's easy to assess. And I do believe that it becomes an issue for the market analysts to assess, not only in terms of as you say, the hard traditional data, but a lot of the stuff in terms of the talent and the resources able to run that company into the future.